Assalamu alaikum. Procrastination is one of the biggest problems of our time. Not only does it put things off, but it actually destroys your life by slowly picking away at the things that you need to be doing. So in this video, I want to share some tips with you in terms of how you can overcome procrastination, how you can beat it, and how you can start achieving some of the things that you want to achieve, inshallah. So the first thing I want to say to you is that it's really important for you to understand what procrastination actually is. Now, procrastination is something when you basically feel overwhelmed. You feel like something is too big and you feel like you've got to basically avoid it because doing it is too much pain and it's too much to do it. To actually overcome it, one of the best things we can do is actually to break it down into smaller pieces. For example, I want to give you a real life example, right? One of the things I have to do right now is my tax return. And my tax return is one of the things I hate doing the most. Why? Because I have to get my bank statements, I have to take all of the transactions. There's usually hundreds of transactions, maybe thousands, and I have to label every single transaction. This is fuel, this is stationery, this is a business expense. So you can imagine how overwhelming that feels, how overwhelming that seems, that to actually do something like that is so huge. So I just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And so one of the best things you can do when you have something like this is don't think of it as this big, massive thing. Instead, think of it as the smallest possible part of it. So rather than saying I've got thousands of things to do, which is the reality, instead I said, why don't I do the easiest, smallest, simplest thing? What is the easiest, smallest, simplest thing? It is basically to log into my banking. Because in my bank is where all the bank statements are. This is where I'm going to get all the information that I need. And therefore, I just need to log into my bank. What I did is rather than telling myself it's time to do thousands of little actions, I said the only action I have is to log into my bank account. And I said I'm going to do that today, right? That was the only thing I said. Today I'm going to log into my bank account and I'm going to start this process, right? When I thought about it and it was just logging in, it became so easy in my mind that I said I'm going to do it. That's exactly what happened. I logged into my bank account. So one of the biggest things about procrastination, if you're going to beat it, is realize that it's all about overwhelm, and to get rid of overwhelm, you just basically chop it down into the smallest possible thing. I could have made it even smaller. I could have just said, hey, instead of actually logging into my bank account, the only action I'm going to do is sit at my desk or just start my laptop. But I knew because my laptop was already started, I said, I'm going to do it like this. I'm just going to break it down into something really simple, and I'm going to actually just log into my bank. So guess what? When you actually log into your bank, when you do this small action, you get something called momentum. Now, momentum is very powerful because once you actually do it, then you think, I'm here now, I might as well download one statement. And that's what happened with me. I said, I'm here now, I might as well download one statement. So I downloaded one statement. Then I thought, it only took me like 8 seconds to do that. Let me do another one. And I did another one, and did another one, until I had got all of the statements downloaded. Then I created a master sheet and I started doing the actions. So although I said I was only going to log in, once I was there, it was actually easy to do. And this is why the second thing I want you to realize about overwhelm and about procrastination is starting is the hardest part. Once you actually start, everything becomes much simpler. So it's not just about breaking it down into small pieces, but then starting. And once you start, the momentum actually builds up and you decide to take more and more action until it gets done. Now, one of the good things you can do is put a deadline on yourself. This is the third thing I would say. Put a deadline on yourself. For example, if you're going to say log into your bank account, put it down for today. If you're going to do something else, put it down for tomorrow. Actually set a deadline, even if it's just a mental deadline, that this is the day I'm going to do something by. And if you put that deadline in, that will add some pressure for you to actually take that action. And if it's a tiny action, then that will actually help you to move forward with it as well. The fourth thing I would say about procrastination is to remind yourself about why this is important. The why, the purpose, the reason. This is your fuel. This is the thing that will power you to do what's needed to be done. So you should ask yourself, why do I need to do this? In regards to the tax return, I have a company. If I don't file taxes, I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm going to get a fine. Eventually, they'll close the company down. I'll be in big trouble. It'll cost me a lot of money. So for this reason, reminding myself that, look, I better do it on time. I better do it. It actually empowers me and it gives me the fuel and the motivation to go and take that action. So these are some of the things I would say. As an added bonus, I want to give you another one. I was actually sitting at home and I was doing these thousands of transactions. I was trying to do it. And it reminded me of this thing that Tony Robbins said. He was saying that you should ask yourself this question, that if there's something you don't like doing, like I was doing my tax thing, what could you do to make it more enjoyable? What is there that you could do to do the same thing but make it more enjoyable? And that's why I thought, I'm sitting here, I'm doing all these transactions. Instead, why don't I take this to the beach? I'm like, being at the beach is fun, right? Like lovely water, people playing, I thought, why don't I just take my laptop and go to the beach? And that's what I did. So I bought my laptop, I made the dock available offline, and now I'm just gonna sit here in the nice sun, in the beach, actually making all these transactions and going through everything that needs to be done. And I hope by the time I'm finished on the beach, the action will be completed and it will be done. So these are some of the things that I would remind you to do when it comes to procrastination. Remember that it's all that overwhelm. Make sure that you actually break it down into small tasks. Make sure that you set a deadline for yourself. Make sure that you take that action, because starting is one of the hardest things to do. And then when you actually get into it, the momentum builds you up. And then remember to try and make it something that's more exciting. Try and find a way of doing it. Another example is that, let's imagine you're going to do sales calls or you do something you don't like. You could just go to an environment where you like. And of course, not everyone has a beach next to them in their city or anything, but just going to a nice coffee shop, going to somewhere where you would enjoy the environment and actually really help you to do things. And this is something I use a lot. When I'm going to do some writing, when I'm going to do a different task, I will change my environment so that I can actually go and get things done. May Allah make it easy for you. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on any more of these. And we also have a free training in the comments, which you should definitely take advantage of. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. May Allah make it easy for you and help you to overcome procrastination. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.